Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind podcast, built for real estate professionals that want to work less, earn more, and make an impact in their community. For information on how you can become part of the estate professionals community, visit probatemastery.com.
Welcome to the Probate Mastery coaching call. I'm Bill Gross. I'm standing in today for Bruce. I used to host this regularly, and I've been kind of a regular substitute teacher. No throwing erasers at my back, no calling names when I'm not looking. I'm the substitute. And the reason why he's asked me, quite frankly, is I've used this program. I joined the predecessing program about 6 years ago and took the coaching and followed the program. And based on that, built my probate business. I'm a real estate broker in Los Angeles, California. I am with eXp Realty. And so I built a business. And I think that's an important distinction I want to make if I had the chance to talk about that a little bit today, which is I built a business. And that was my plan all along, in that I do also have non-commission income, about equal to my commission income. And I've built a business of people below me. My company, like several others nowadays, offers a multi-level kind of approach where I can bring other people on. And as a result of that, I get income from that as well. And so I built a great business, but it's all based on probate is the sole area that I lead generate. Just to give you an idea, I think my gross commissions this year, I'm on track for about almost 200,000 year to date. So I should be about 400 for the year. And I have non-commission income that has traditionally equaled about that amount. It's just me. I don't have any full-time employees. I don't have any full-time buyer's agents or listing agents. I do have a lot of virtual assistants and a lot of technology I use to get the job done. And all my lead gen, I spend about 3 or 4 hours a day, primarily on video interviews, whether I do on my podcast or meeting people one-on-one and do video interviews with attorneys and fiduciaries. And all my business is what I call B2B referral, business to business. I'm looking for people, professional to refer me leads. I feel I get better business that way, better listings, better business that way. It's more efficient for me in the long run. So that's a kind of overview of who I am. And why am I here? Because I've taken this program, I've listened in on the calls. I either come in live for a little bit and or watch the replay regularly. I think of a lot of Bruce, though my business is a little different than most of yours. And I would say that maybe you might want to look at some of the things I do to help supplement what you're doing to be more effective, more productive in the long run. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or in the chat box. So the chat box is kind of hard to follow. And with all these AI assistants nowadays, they fill up the chat box with all that, and they run long chats. So it's really hard to read the chat box. I would urge you to raise your hand. I think that pops you at the top of the list. I'm glad to talk to you there if you have any questions at all. I can talk for hours. You can literally roll me out of bed at 2 a.m. and say, probate, and give me a subtopic, and I can talk for an hour on it. I don't mean to subject you to that, but I'm glad to make myself as available as possible. The reason why I need this call is in a world of impersonal technology, we all need people to relate to. And so I used to host this call for years, I think, because I needed this. I needed a place where I could bounce ideas off of, find out best practices, get encouragement, get support, get feedback. I think we all need that. And so where do you find that? I saw on last week's call, Bruce was looking for where do people get their mastermind, and they're from some Facebook groups, and some people have individual calls they do. I think it's really important. It's an important part of the business that got lost when we went virtual and when we went to where everything was done online rather than going into offices. So my hope is to kind of fill that gap for you today if I can. Again, I'm in Los Angeles, California. How can I help? Who's got a win to report or has a problem they want to share, and we can try to solve some problems together. And again, I'm a practitioner. I'm not selling any coaching. I'm not selling data. I'm not selling anything other than the American dream. And if you work hard, you can make a lot of money. Anybody have any questions, comments, victories, problems? I mean, we don't have to have the call if you want to. Ooh, I got a lot to do, but I'm here to help.
I'll start, although I don't want to.
Good. Do what you don't want to do. I think that's important. B, jump in. Let's go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am having a super hard time getting started and having phone calls answered. I send out mailers, I call people, but I get so few people answering. And so I've been doing it for a few months, but I really haven't gotten anywhere.
Great. B, how long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for about 3.5 years.
Okay. Full-time or part-time?
Um, Full time, but long story. So I would say
Okay. You're full-time
really
today, though.
about a year,
Okay.
really focusing on real estate.
And geographically, where do you sell real estate?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. And do you have other business besides probate? And you're having this problem just expanding your probate business, or is this your experience in real estate overall?
I do. I'll have a lot of like sphere
Great.
real estate.
Great.
I have several listings right now. I've had several people buy this year.
Good for you. So I would say
Okay.
that there's two issues you have. They're both mindset issues. They're not technology issues. The first one you said was that not many people answer, right? So
Right.
if I told you, let's say there's a math question, how many people per 100 answer their phone? And you thought it should be 20, it turns out to be 2. That's just the reality, right?
Right.
So then the next question is, well, what do I have to do to get those 2? Or what do I have to do to get as many of the 100 to engage with me as possible? So you have to ask the right question and then have the appropriate technology for that question. The not enough people answer the phone, there are certain technology things you can do to improve your ratios. But then at some point, you also have to think about strategies. Let's talk about your calling. When you call somebody, how many times do you let the phone ring?
I let it go to voicemail.
Okay. Do you leave a message?
I do.
Okay. So when cold calling, my best techniques, I got these from Mike Ferry years ago, you want to talk to people when they're ready to talk to you. Meaning, if you think about it, when you're home and the phone rings and it's like on the 8th ring, you pick it up, you're there with your kid, in my case, my grandkid, or my wife, or something's going on, or the TV's on, or something. I'm not really ready to talk. But when I pick up in the first or second ring, for me, it usually means I'm available, I'm ready to talk for whatever reason. Most time I won't take a call, I don't know, but I am right now. And so I think you'll find your statistics be better if you only let the phone ring 3 times, hanging up before the 4th ring, and not leaving voice messages. Now, that means you'll take the same data and go through it more times. Because there are some people who will never pick up and never return a voicemail. I'll give you an interesting story. Just show of hands here. If you all would participate with me real quick. If you write in the chat box, I'm going to ask you a question, yes or no. If you would put yes, I'm just curious. I have a buyer lead. I sold their house here in LA, and they're moving to another state. I don't want to say where. I don't want to get a competition with the lead because I just placed it. But let's say another state. So imagine it's coming into your neighborhood. A buyer, now in this case, is a lower price, $100,000 to $200,000 is what he says, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, but he's all cash. I just sold his property here in LA and he has all cash to buy. And if I offered you that as a referral, put yes or no. Would you like that referral? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, it could mean you could give it to a buyer's agent. Could mean yes, yes. Not too many no's, at least so far. I see a couple yeses. Let me see. Might you like to at least engage with me to find out, because if I have one lead, maybe I have more leads, right? So it's funny that if I told you that I made 10 phone calls to get one realtor to pick up, I started yesterday and I left 3 voice messages and then called me back. So we think that the world is waiting for us to call, but they're not. So again, I think it's a mindset issue is however many call answers, however many answer. Your job is to figure out how to take that statistic and make it work for you. And so like I said, one technology, I would hang up before the 4th ring. I would not leave voice messages. I would recall the same data through 3 times, assuming at that point there's no longer current. Now, if your strategy is to call older probate leads, and you might pull the same database out 90 days from now and do the same thing. Go through the list 3 times, leaving letting it ring no more than 3 times, hang up before the 4th, not leaving messages. You might pull the same data up every 90 days or so. You'll get more contacts, I think, per hour that way, which is the key. The metric, let me ask you this, B, when you dial, do you count how many contacts you have per hour?
No, truthfully, I'm not very good at.
Well,
I try to
don't say
be
that. Let's not make an
consistent about
affirmation
calling.
about it. Hold on, I'm going to stop you there. Let's not make an affirmation about what we're not good at. Let's just say you're not doing it yet. What you need to do when you cold call I just take a plain piece of paper and a pen, and I just use a stick man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put the hour I start on, and I count my contacts per hour. And so you have to see how many people actually talk to you per hour, and then that metric becomes the value of that activity. If you're getting 2 or 3 per hour, you're going to go broke. If you're getting 8 per hour of consumers, you've got a shot.
Okay.
But you have to count the number, and your mind will obviously wander, and while it's ringing, and we must like the voicemail because we don't have to talk to anybody. We have to get out of that mindset. We have to be that we're looking for people who want to talk to us. There are some people who need you, and you want them to answer the phone. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay, so that was the
it
first one.
does.
The second one was, what was the second one? I had another point I wanted to make with you. I can't remember now. It was really good too. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll listen back to this and reach out to you. But yeah, does that help a little bit at least?
Yeah, it does help.
Okay.
Yeah, I just I guess, need to be more focused on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, it's a mindset issue. You have to think about the fact that, oh, this is what I wanted to say. We're not just looking for anybody. We're looking for people who want to work with us. So it doesn't mean that when you pick up initially is negative, you don't give up on them, but you make your best chance to try to get them to turn around towards you. But you don't want to list their house if they don't trust you or like you. So you really have to be aware that you're looking for people who at some level want to talk to you, want to work with you. And if they don't, they don't. And if they're not picking up the phone, there's a good sign they don't want to work with you at that time.
Okay.
That can change. Okay, does it help a little bit?
It helps a little bit. Yes.
Okay, good. B, thanks so much. Okay, who else has a question? And thanks for participating and putting the camera on. I think that's really important. I think it's about participating and holding ourselves accountable. Who else has a question or problem or challenge or victory you want to share with us? Hey, Matthew Price. My biggest victory is I got Matthew Price on the call. It's so interesting. You guys all put yes. You know, it was a little harder, to get people to respond to the lead than it should have been. Anybody? You guys are all doing great. You're all hitting your goals. No problems. Biggest problem is where to put all the money and then the taxes that come with all that income. Is that your biggest problem right now?
One of the problems that I ran into, my name is Catherine Johnson.
Catherine.
I have a client that has a sister that has created a bogus will. Parents weren't on property at that time. So my biggest hurdle is finding an attorney to work with. A lot of them say, just let her have the house. Why does someone want to give someone $1 million piece of property? Because they created fraud.
Where is the property located?
It's in LA.
Okay, and the decedent passed in LA as well?
Yes.
Okay. Has a probate been opened?
Yes.
And so who's the administrator, your client or the other person with a fake will?
My client.
So your clients have filed, and their claim is that will's fake. I think that has the other party submitted the will to the court?
It's been submitted. It's when she created this will. It was mom was the one that was alive. Dad passed away in 1987. And because they had to put dad into a nursing home, parents took themselves off title and put the children on title, which everyone is grown. And so I guess she didn't know or recall about the kids being on title, that mom could not technically sign the house over to her.
And then did your client hire an attorney to file the probate, or they do it on their own?
Yes, no, she has an attorney. We had one, or rather my client had one, and she just was not performing. So now they hired another attorney here in Rancho.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's one of those things where if you filed already, when you file in California, there's a form and you file either to administer a will or file an intestate, meaning there's no will, probate. If your client filed an intestate probate, the other party would file an objection, say, hey, here we have a will, and then they would try to get the will admitted by the court. And at that point, your client's attorney would present the facts. Here's the death cert. Here's the date of the will. These don't match up. That can sometimes immediately cause the will to back off. So, again, you have an attorney, I would follow your attorney's legal advice, but it seems to me that's the process that's going to go down. There's no shortcut to go through that. They're going to have their chance to make their objection, and we'll see what happens.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. And this is the business. I think this is why probate, some agents don't get involved in it. And I think this is the on one hand, you can look at it as, well, I don't get paid on this because it doesn't get sold. I have numerous listings that I took and got into litigation, and it's been years. But the positive, I develop a relationship with the customer and a relationship with the attorneys, and they end up referring me other business. So I think the key is just keep focusing on doing a good job for your customers, and then in the long run, it'll work out for you, Catherine. If I could help, let me know. I also, if you went offline, reach out to me. I can look up online, give you some feedback on the attorneys, because I used to live in Dime Bar. I do business out in Inland Empire. I definitely know some the good ones. I know some of the bad ones. I'd be glad to if I can do some research for you, help you with your client on that. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, who else has a question, comment, victory, defeat? Casey, Madison, hand up. How can I help you?
Bill, how are you? I've got one for you. Historically, in my market, which is like Metro Detroit area, I've not seen very many probate properties that are in auction. But as I'm starting to call through, I'm starting to see more properties that are in auction that are on the probate list. Typically, I've avoided those. I just think there's a lot of opportunity outside, like without all that mess involved in it. But I'm starting to see it more, and we're slowing down a little bit on more like the traditional ready to go side of the probate. So just wanted to get maybe some ideas, your approach, how you might approach something that's in probate, but then also up for auction.
You say for auction, do you mean because it's foreclosure, or you mean auction because of probate?
Foreclosure auction.
Yeah. So, I think we get paid to solve problems. If you solve bigger problems, you make more money. And so the fact it's in foreclosure wouldn't cause me to back off. I think I would want to, look into what's the solution to help customers. Here in California, there is a law. If it was a primary residence for either living or deceased, you can get guaranteed 90-day extension with a listing, and another 90 days if you fall into escrow. So there are attorneys who do that, and they charge $4,500 for that process. I found an attorney who can do it for $600, and I can advance some money out of the probate to pay for that $600 to get it done. So again, I don't know the laws in Michigan, but I would say that it sounds like there's an opportunity there because people have a problem, and if you spend some time and design a solution, then you get paid. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, right? It's just maybe it's a limiting belief that I have, but yeah, I would always just skip over those because I'm always looking for the PRs, right? That
I would run to the sound of the
mess.
gunfire. If there's a problem there, that's where I want to run to and see how I can solve it.
Okay.
Again, solve bigger problems, you get paid more money. And the other thing is there's a lot of attorneys who have that problem, and they're not going to get paid if it goes to foreclosure, or they're not going to get paid for a long time. And if you can solve the problem, then you can become the expert in the Detroit area on how to solve probate foreclosure problems. Right? Now, if there's no equity, there's no equity, but that's a different story. If you're talking about houses with equity, then we're saving.
Yeah, I mean, typically they're lower equity situations. So also trying to create, like, what is that threshold, right? Like, how much equity is it where it's worth your time and worth solving the problem? Like, what's that threshold? I'm sure it's a little bit different for everybody. But I haven't really broken that down to figure that number out yet.
So I've gotten so involved in this piece of the business, I created a new podcast called the Reverse Mortgage Podcast because so many of them were reverse mortgages were going into foreclosure. And they had some equity, maybe not a lot. Maybe it's a short sale. And there are on FHA reverse mortgages, which are the vast majority, short sale provisions. So I would say, again, it's an area that you should learn your local laws and your local rules and see if there's a way you can craft a couple different solutions that you can template and do over and over again. That's where I think the money is.
Thanks, Bill.
Sure, glad to help. Who else? Am I solving the problems too quickly? Should I draw it out, make it more dramatic? Who's got a victory? Everybody in this call has to have a victory or a loss or a problem or something you need help on. Sean, why is it getting foreclosure to begin with? How does it get prevented? Sean Z. Sean, come on. Let's get you unmuted here. So what are you referring to? How's what getting into foreclosure?
So I never heard of like probates going into foreclosure to begin with. Like, why would there be so many?
Well, I think it's very common. There's a couple one is that the decedent might have been sick or passed for years before they got the probate opened. And so even if they saw the foreclosure coming, nobody has the authority to use the estate's money to pay the mortgage or to apply to the foreclosure until they get authority from the court. So that's one of the problems, just the time period from somebody passing until you get authority. If that's 6 months or a year, you have a delinquent mortgage that could be in foreclosure.
Also, the status of the home prior to obviously the person passing was good standing, they were fine, and then they stopped paying. But then don't the executors fall into play to be responsible for paying the bills? I thought that was part of the executor's job.
Yeah, but it might be a month or 2 or 3 before the executor gets appointed and be able to get the check. In fact, it could be longer. We had a case where even though we had the authority, the bank, First Republic Bank, who's since gone broke, and then they were taken after fighting with them for 3 months. Chase Manhattan Bank, the private bankers to Jeffrey Epstein, wouldn't give money to our client, even though we had court authority. And we literally took them to court and they got sanctioned and had to pay penalties because they would not recognize our administrator's authority to write a check from our account to pay the mortgage. So it sounds simpler than it is. And you could say, well, they should have. Well, banks should have done a lot of things. They just don't. That's why they're banks. That's why they're terrible institutions for the most part, the big money center banks.
So then my mind goes to, if you don't have an opportunity to take money out or have money saved to say, hey, listen, this is a good property. I don't want to go into foreclosure. I'm going to pay the bills regardless. And then, whatever happens. It was mom and dad's house. It's the least I can do. Isn't there like a possibility to have a company in the interim to say, hey, we can lend you money privately until you guys get things ironed out for a certain percentage, which is being fair about it?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. The problem is, what's a fair percentage? And to some people, to an investor, to get a fair return is often to a borrower too high an interest rate, and to attorneys, they think it's so high they won't even refer their customers to those services. So, for example,
so they'll just let them go to foreclosure instead of paying a couple percent. So I'm not trying to be
yeah.
facetious.
Well, that's the question. Again, each case is different, but I will say that a loan to an administrator or to an estate is usually about 20% of the money advanced, not 20 percentage points. But if they're going to give you $10,000, you pay them back $12,000, whether it's in 6 months or 9 months or whenever, or 2 years. And if it's so an heir advance, it's going to be usually 25% to 30% or more, depending on the circumstances. So, is that expensive money? Well, not if you're saving a property from foreclosure, perhaps. I have a property where we have $1 million, $1.5 million loan that's going into foreclosure, and the rearage is $55,000. So not so simple to get that money. But you're asking the right question. I think, again, to the same thing I would say to B, it was to Sean, which is, solve bigger problems, get bigger paychecks. And so these are kind of areas that I try to spend my time on to solve these problems. Anybody can take a listing with full authority and put it on the market and sell it. These are situations that I work on to get my listings and get attorneys who want to work with me.
Yeah, I think good probate specialists are great problem solvers. I know in the Bible it says if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. I have a problem, not saying with God's verse, but if the fishing pole breaks, then what? I feel like if you know how to make the fishing pole, you should be fine, right? So, like, how do you make the fishing pole? Like, that's the mindset that I've been trying to think of lately. Like, how do I create this fishing pole shop, or something in that manner?
Bring 2 fishing poles. The thing I tell my wife all the time is, if you have 2, you have 1. If you have 1, you have none, because something's going to break or run out. So
yeah, that's true.
You always have to have an extra of something. So
yeah.
I was watching a video about the New York Yankees clubhouse and how many bats these professional players have in their clubhouse anytime. You say, well, they only need 1 at a time. They might break 1 or 2 in a game, and so they have like 30 on hand.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's again, if you're professional, if you're getting paid, I imagine, I don't know this, $20 million to hit a baseball, I would imagine you keep around a lot of extra bats.
I
If
would
you're a
think so. Yeah.
fisherman, you make a living fishing. I imagine you keep a couple extra fishing poles around in
Yeah.
case one breaks and one falls in the ocean.
Right.
As real estate agents, we have to similarly have several different solutions to solve problems.
I just never heard of them going to foreclosure. I guess there's, I guess with every state, every law is different, right?
What state are you in?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, and California and LA every day there's foreclosures coming to probate court. In some cases, the judge will delay the foreclosure or they'll expedite the approval. There's a process in California where instead of getting letters of authority, they'll get letters of special administration, and so the judge will say, "We'll give you letters just to list the property, and just to contact the bank, and just to pay the arrearages, from the account." So there's different things you can go to the court and ask for help, but that requires an attorney and fees and all that stuff. But yeah, there's different ways in different states.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure, Sean.
Hey guys, I'm butting in here with a quick ask. If you're getting value out of this coaching today, I want to invite you to check out my Probate Mastery trainings over at www.probatemastery.com. Probate Mastery is for you if you're an agent or an investor that wants to work with motivated sellers that have inherited real estate that they don't need and in many cases can't afford. These sellers are more appreciative, willing to trust your expertise, and less likely to nickel and dime you over commission or price. Why is that? They're often in the middle of a complex probate or an estate administration process, and this means that real estate is very often a burden on them, and they simply need the help. Inside of Probate Mastery, I teach you exactly where to source your leads, how to establish value, and offer your service in a way that quickly makes you, as the professional, your market's expert in the probate space. If you want to know a little bit more, go over to www.probatemastery.com. Hope to see you guys inside of the community. Thanks.
JT likes the way I bang on Chase. Yeah, I'm not really big on Chase Bank. It's amazing. These guys they didn't know they were financing trafficking of young girls all around the United States. For me to get my credit card balance off a Chase is like a blood test, but somehow they don't know anything about hundreds of millions of dollars. Hard to believe. Okay, I guess I should get off my political soapbox. Sorry about that. Who else has a question? Or everybody here on the call should have a question, a problem, a solution, a victory, something. Come on. I guess I could sing. Well, somebody's hanging up.
Hey, Bill, Matt.
Hey, Matt, what's up?
Oh, same stuff, different day. I've actually got two solutions for the guy on the fishing stuff. In biblical times, they didn't use a pole; they used a net. And secondly, on the auction side, the ones that go to the courthouse steps are always the ones you attempt to avoid because the banks will always try to buy them back. Me being a real estate auctioneer, I have pretty much gotten crowds on probate sales that bring in more than what the market value is. So you have to be careful as to if there's a petition to partition. Usually, in some cases, they'll go to the courthouse steps unless you can finesse your way around those. But normally, if it's a standard auction with a real auctioneer, your investors can pick up some really good deals. And even the people who are looking to get into a property have pretty good deals. So you have to differentiate the forced sales versus going to an auction for a probate property. Because they're completely
He was talking about foreclosures, trustee sales.
Right.
These experiences vary by state. Like in California, it used to be a great way to get business would be to go to the trustee sale foreclosures. And they used to be the courthouse steps, and they moved them across the street to a hotel. Auction.com runs it. But so few go to auction now because the laws and regulations have gotten so strict preventing foreclosures. It's caused a real problem in California that there's a lot of problems with it. But at the end of the day, when you show up, there's just not the number of available deals with equity in them that there used to be. It's much tighter, and a lot of people used to do that work. I've seen them gotten out of it, and when I go there, there's a lot less attendance. Now, it could
Right.
be that's a good thing because there's more competition. There's less money left for investors, and the people buying the property are overpaying. But again, I've just I don't really have any customers who do that anymore. That here in California. So again, and I'm sure that varies by state.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of the world from you, but
Yeah.
90% of everything that goes up for auction gets a offer to purchase before it hits the auction day.
Yeah.
So it's just, instead of it being the lowest return on the investment, it's actually the fastest. And since it's more urgent, you have people who are putting in offers and trying to get the property before that date, because then they know their day is cut off. So they try to get it before it goes to
Yeah.
auction, and that's how 90% of them get sold.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Thank you. Other questions, problems, challenges, victories? Any thrill of victory or the agony of defeat? Who knows what reference that is? Anybody? Anybody as old as me? Who here is using AI in their business effectively? We have an entire revolution in the business world, and I just don't think it's hit our industry yet. I don't think it. I think we talk about it a lot, and I think we use it, but I think we use it kind of like we were using apps, and now we're using different apps, and they happen to be AI based. But the revolution is not here yet. But I feel like I'm at the beach. If you've ever been to California, and a wave comes in, there's a much big wave outside. You yell outside, and I think that's the case here. That we have this tidal wave coming at us. B, do you want to share how you use it effectively? I use it every day, all day long, but I'm not using it the way that it's really going to be revolutionary, meaning I'm still using it. What's going to be happening is this agentic AI is going to be running things without me. But how do you use it, B?
So I had knee replacement about a month and a half ago. So I've had a lot of time to sit around and figure this stuff out. I use it to create social media content. I use it to create my newsletter. We're about to, at our brokerage, to get an AI system where we can combine everything together. But mainly for social media posts in my newsletter, and if I need any kind of idea or things like that.
So I think it does real well with coordination. I'm with the XP Realty. I would think that our brokerage should have more tools instead of giving us rules and regulations to follow. Create an AI agent that does that. For example, MLS descriptions. There are certain compliance rules that you can't say certain things. So I create my own where I uploaded the MLS rules, my local MLS, and the NER rules and the CAR rules. And I also gave us some instructions on how to write descriptions the way I want it. But I think companies can do that and then kind of guide and change the output from their agents, but using that tool as a way to help influence the outcome. Case, I see your hand up. How can I help you?
Just, I've been on this mission to incorporate the agentic side of AI into my probate business as much as I can. Some of my struggles is just consistency, and the agentic side of AI fills a big gap there. So just some of the ways, just to give you some examples, I've built out AI agents on the agentic side really to help streamline my lead generation, right? Even like pulling the leads from the court. Some examples of how I'm doing that, right? They're pulling, essentially court, the letters of authority directly from the courthouse. They're going in, they're ordering, those letters of authority. Once I get them back from the court, they're scanning those PDF letters of authority, importing all that PR data directly into my lead list. And they're filtering I've got other what are called cron jobs, which are automatic schedulers for my AI to like cross-reference, my lead list against like Zillow. So if any property is, on my list, but then hits the market at some point, I know, right, that the personal property is probably not fair game anymore, and it will automatically remove that from my list. Um, that has been the biggest game changer for me, just in terms of getting information as fast as possible and just automating that process like pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, I think it's important, like for people who do direct mail, to pull listings off of the MLS to save mailing on properties already listed, for example. So using these technologies have tremendous potential. Um, but and calling as well. You don't be calling people already listed for property. So the agents, I think, that's the real transformation. The us using as chat right now. And I think the other thing is that when you create a procedure, when I delegate work to my virtual assistants now, I try to delegate. I use Google, so I delegate a gem. I'll write the instructions in it, I'll test it, and send it to them. So rather than say, I want you to do it this way, it's already programmed into the gem that they input a certain thing and then they get a certain output. Ideally, that gets identified at some point.
Yeah, and the approach that I take, I really try and view an AI agent as a brand new hire, right, that you would bring onto your business, or a virtual assistant. Assume that they know nothing. Context that you can give them is everything on what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
And you almost, similar to if you were to have a new hire or bring on a new virtual assistant, they need a standard operating procedure, right?
Right.
On how to do something very specifically. And with an AI agent, that's done through what's called a markdown file, so an MD file, which is essentially your standard operating procedure of a specific task. And I'll work with my agent to develop, right, that SOP, create a markdown file specifically of that specific task. And then once we have that dialed in, I can create what's known as a skill. So now my agent, anytime, each week, right, that new probate filings happen at the court, my agent, they're instructed the first thing they're going to do is go and read the MD file, our standard operating procedure of exactly how to do that task before it runs, right? So then that way everything is consistent each week.
Oh. And it sounds like you're using Claude, if I had to guess, from your language.
Yeah, so I use Claude as the brain behind the operation, and then the platform that I'm using for my actual AI agents, I was using, it's called OpenClaw for quite a while, but I'm migrating them to something that's called Hermes Agent. It's just another platform that offers some different things, but the landscape is changing on a weekly basis. So
It's incredible.
I've had to really slow myself down, where I've caught myself saying I'm spending more time just out of curiosity, right, learning these new things in AI than actually implementing them into my business that generate revenue. So sometimes, right, I'll allow myself to audit my systems if there's a better way to do it once a month. But I'm trying not to get caught in the trap of this is new and shiny and look over here, because that can be a trap in itself.
And then are you running a separate hardware? Do you have like a Mac Mini or some sort of a laptop that you're running the Claude on, or are you running it online?
I would love to eventually move it all to a Mac Mini. The problem is there's a really big shortage with Mac Minis right now.
Yeah.
So I've been having a hard time sourcing them at a reasonable price. But no, I'm using what's known as a VPS, so just a virtual server.
Right.
It's called Hostinger. It's cheap. It's a good way to, if you're just learning AI and just learning how to do all this, it's a pretty low cost way to go, just to make sure that you're building it out. That was my original thought was, all right, I'll go with the VPS route, the Hostinger route, keep the cost down. Let's make sure that I'm integrating it correctly and utilizing it every day in my business. And then you reach a point where you say, okay, I can justify the cost. Let's make the slightly larger investment into moving it onto a local machine.
So for those watching and maybe don't follow exactly what Casey is doing himself is actually implementing these incredibly powerful systems. It's gotten a lot easier where you don't really have to be a programmer, but you have to take some time to learn how to do the process correctly. And he's created his own hardware. In this case, he's outsourcing it virtually, and his own harness and systems, and creating agents. Eventually, the hardware and the hosting, we're going to have options for the rest of us on our PCs. In fact, yesterday, NVIDIA announced new chips and systems. And then as a result, new PCs that will be coming out probably in the fall, laptop, desktops, that would allow you to run these very sophisticated, large language models as well as the agentic software on your own hardware and your own computer in your office. Could be the same one you use for your desktop, could be a separate computer. And the cost of stuff is coming down really fast. And so for all of us, I think it's important not to necessarily know how to do all of it, but start somewhere so that when you're able to take it on, you can have a library you can bring to it rather than starting from scratch 6 months or a year from now. But I do think in 6 months, these hardware systems would be more ubiquitous. Casey describes hard to find the Apple minis and Apple laptops that run this right now because there's such a run on it. But once they ramp up production, as well as these NVIDIA and Microsoft style computers ramp up, and I'm sure at some point behind them is going to be Google. There'll be more and more cases where we as agents can buy a $2,000 computer or a $1,000 computer, and the software comes with it preloaded, and it's safer and more consumer friendly, and we'll be able to do a lot of these things. In the meantime, Casey's getting a big head start on it. Congratulations, and thanks for sharing that with us. I really appreciate getting the details.
Got it.
Who here is overwhelmed with this? Like, where do I start? What do I do to even begin? Anybody? Okay. Matthew's going to offer a video for people who want to buy it at auction and how to what to look for. Great, thanks. Okay, any other questions, problems, challenges, or victories, or are you just all a bunch of shy people? Casey, thanks for participating today. B as well,
Sure.
Matthew as well, Catherine as well. The rest of you, come on. You all have something. You have something to brag about or complain about. So let's hear it. Or ask me a question if you don't want to talk about yourself.
Well, how long did it take you to get your probate business going? I know it was probably a while ago, but did it take you a long time, or
It's a good
you
question.
said you're a natural talker, which I have a hard time. I don't have the gift to gab very well.
Oh, B, come on. When somebody says that, what they're saying is, I don't really care enough about these people. And the reality is, I know you do. It's not right. It's not true. The problem is you just haven't connected why you should care about talking to them. That's all. You don't have the connection. I'll share with you. I get asked the question all the time. I literally have a coaching call. I offer a free coaching call. If you want to reach out to me, and I'm glad to give you a free 15-minute kind of, where do I start? How do I get involved? I don't sell anything. I don't sell any data. Maybe at some point I will, but you're welcome to. I just ask that you via video so I can see you and we can communicate and learn. And I'm going to put that link. Well, I hope it's the right link in the chat box. But you're certainly welcome to reach out to me anytime. But people say, where do I start? Because I think that's underneath your question. They don't like the answer, but I'll tell you what the real answer is. I always tell people you start first by getting your database put together, because any marketing effort is going to require metrics, numbers. Like I asked you about your contacts per hour. A business runs on numbers. And if you don't have numbers, you don't really have a business. You have a hobby, which is okay if that's how you want to live your life. But for me, I have to make a lot of money to provide for my family and my community and my goals. And so this isn't a game for me. I love it. I enjoy a lot of it, but it's not a game. This is important to me, so I keep track. It's more important than watching a ball game where they keep score. The first place to start is your database. How many people do you have in your database? When I coach people and ask them this question, how many people do you have in your center of influence or sphere database? I always get an answer that starts with a lot of words. I've never got an answer 712, 2015. I've never gotten that answer. Every answer is, well, I got here, blah, 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 blah. Excuse, story. That's the problem. And so when I started in probate, I had my database put together. I've been emailing out to my sphere every week for years at that point before I started. Now I had been in production. I went into management for about 5 years, but I kept my email weekly to my database. So when I went back to production, I had the database put together and I'd been emailing to them regularly. At that time, I had about 700 people. So one of the things I learned was to email to everybody something of value once a week and call them all every 90 days. So I started calling at the A's, at the letter A. And it was a simple call. Hey, B, how you doing? I'm in real estate, but I've really been focusing a lot of time on probate and trust real estate. And I wanted to know if you had any questions in that area. I work with attorneys, estate planners. Do you have an estate plan put together? Is that something you need some help with? And I started calling all the A's as I go through Z. I got to D, and one of my clients who was an attorney, not an estate planning attorney, said, well, I don't know if this is a lead for you or not, but I have a client who has a problem. I get paid to solve problems in real estate. Well, how can I help? Well, she's a widow, and her house, she has a neighbor, and they're arguing over this fence and a tree and some damage and the city, blah, 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 blah. Can you help her? Sure, because I get paid to solve what? What do I get paid to do? Anybody? Okay, would you all please type this in the chat box for me, please? I get paid to solve other people's problems. Just type that in the chat box. I get paid to solve other people's. I get paid a lot of money to solve big problems. So I call this lady up, sweet old lady, and we're talking on the phone, and she says to me, blah, 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 can you just come by and take a look at it? Now, my training through McFerry was not to go except for on a pre-approved listing appointment, but my new attitude was I get paid to solve problems. So I went to her house. It was about a 45-minute drive. Nice, sweet old lady. She had this 6-unit apartment building. We walked around it. She showed me there's a fence, there's a this, there's a that, there's a whole story. And she turned to me and just said, can you just sell this for me? Now, what's your listing presentation when you get asked that question? Anybody here want to guess what my listing presentation was?
You slide her the pen.
Well, I didn't go with a contract. I didn't know that's what she wanted to do. I didn't see that's where we're going. I was taken by surprise. But I was able to put together pretty quickly on my iPad, and we did sign it. Yeah, I'd be glad to. So I sold her that house. I sold a house for her. It was about $600,000 house in the Echo Park area. Nice old lady, very sweet. And so I actually picked up her proceeds check from escrow to deliver it to her. Drove to her house on a Friday afternoon. She started crying and said, I've always wanted to move to Phoenix to be with my sister. Do you think you could sell this house for me, her personal residence? About $600,000 duplex in Echo Park. What do you think I said to her? What was my listing presentation? By now is practice. What did I say?
Of course
Yeah.
I can sell this for you.
Yeah. So I think the thing I would say is, where do you start? You start by creating value in a relationship with your client so they trust you and think of you as a source of solutions. And then you find a reason to create value on a phone call that they're going to appreciate the phone call, not just, oh, hi, do you know anybody who wants to sell their house? I have a goal to sell 50 houses this year. Can you help me? Nobody cares. Your mother doesn't care about that. But if you have some good information, hey, I found a great resource that offers estate planning for people who can't afford normally the services. Do you know anybody who might need an estate plan? How about you? Is your property in a trust, or do you hold it personally? Those are great value you're bringing to your customer. And I would suggest if you called everybody in your database, you've been in business, you said, for a few years, you must have a couple hundred. You should have a couple hundred if you put it all together. You'll get a couple deals before you get through one time. That's where I'd start. And you're going to find along the way, here's the other thing that's amazing. My best listing client, turned out I knew her. My wife knew her mother through school. We'd gone to lunch with them about 12 years prior. And then about 6 months prior, we went to a friend's house for dinner and saw the daughter. And then one day I was in court, I saw the daughter there. And what are you doing? Oh, I'm a real estate broker. I specialize in probate. What are you doing? Oh, well, my father is in a conservatorship and we have 14 properties we have to sell. Can you help me? Mm-hmm. By then, my listing presentation was pretty well practiced. The other best referral is an attorney who is a civil litigator. He's not a probate attorney, but civil litigators win cases and then the client dies and they use probate to pay the estate of the person who died. So They're in my database. For all the YouTube and all the outreach and all the attorneys I've interviewed, my two best pieces of business were one very close friend and one the daughter of a good friend of ours. So I would say, how long does it take? Well, it could be today or tomorrow for you to get your first listing if you get into action. Does that help a little bit, B?
Yes, it helps.
Yeah, how long does it take to get to where people refer you probate business and that probate business gets filed and that goes to the court and you finally sell the house and get paid? That could be a year or two. But you get paid to solve people's problems. You don't just get paid to list probate properties when they sell at the end. It's a process.
Right.
Okay. Okay. We got a few minutes left here. Anybody have any questions? How about my listing presentation? One of the questions I get asked often is, can I see your pre-listing package? I say, I don't have one. I'll talk to the client on the phone and fill out the listing form online. And then before the end of the call, I can hit send to e-sign, but I don't really send much more than that. Anyone else have questions, comments? No?
Quiet bunch, huh?
I'm sorry?
I said a quiet bunch, right?
I guess maybe that's part of the problem. You need to talk to more people. Here's your chance. Look, you're all in business. We have a national audience. You have people watching a video. Here's your chance to help somebody or help yourself. You're helping other people. And I really believe in that. And just I don't mean to be too harsh, but I think that the way we do little things is the way we do everything. And when you come on these calls, you want to create value for other people. Think about that. Think of a good question. If you're going to be on the call just to sit and listen. I get. I'm busy too. Sometimes I'm working on administration work while watching this in the background. But if you're going to participate 100%. Bring some value to the call. Either a good question, share a good story, share a good victory, share a problem you need some help with. Take advantage of the opportunity. If I was a coach, I'd be charging about $1,000 an hour. So I'm available for free. I put in the chat box if you want to make an appointment with me for free. I'm glad to try to offer some assistance if I can. I will say my approach is a little harsh because I'm kind of old school. I think you need to work hard, but if you work hard, I think in the long run you win. Okay, I think we'll wrap up here. Anybody else unless somebody has a burning desire? I don't see anybody. No hands up, no comments. I'm Bill Gross. This is the Probate Masteries Probate Group Coaching Call every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, all the appropriate times across the country. It's also on replay on YouTube. I was either online or I'll watch on YouTube on replay if I can help. I'm Bill Gross at Bill Gross Probate. If I can help in any way, I'd be glad to help you. And look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Bill.